Okay, hey everyone. This is going to be a makeup recording for the live video cast today that the audio did not make the recording. So I'm going to try and repeat a bit of what I did and add a few things as well. So, oh, crazy. Oh, wow. How did that happen? Sweet. All right. So anyway, basically, I was looking at Vladimir Putin's chart because of today's events, and a lot of people are recognizing how beneficial today's summit was for Vladimir Putin, and his transits are very indicative of his success and the empowerment that's taken place. So what he has in his natal chart is Jupiter and a square to Pluto. It's a 22 Leo to 19 Taurus. And a lot of powerful people and wealthy people in the world have had Jupiter-Pluto, like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, but also like presidents like George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, FDR, and even Richard Nixon had the Jupiter-Pluto complex in their natal chart. So what that corresponds to is Jupiter expands everything and Pluto is power. And so there tends to be like an expansion of one's sense of power or ambitious kind of orientation towards power. And what is fascinating about Putin's transits today is that Jupiter in the sky, this is the outer wheel is the transits for today. This is Vladimir Putin's natal chart on the inside. And Jupiter in the sky is in opposition to his natal Jupiter, and it's in a square to his natal Pluto. So it's activating his natal Jupiter-Pluto complex with Jupiter. So it's expanding that whole principle. In addition to that, Pluto in the sky is at 19 Capricorn, which is in an exact trine, this blue line, to his natal Jupiter at 19 Taurus. So not only is Jupiter in the sky opposite Jupiter and square to Pluto in his natal chart, but transiting Pluto is also in a trine to natal Jupiter. So it's a double aspect of the same archetypal principles magnifying one another. So you can see how much of a successful event this was for him and how much empowerment he's really gaining from it, at least so far is the way it seems. It's a pretty amazing correlation. And then one other thing is that Mercury, it corresponds to the communication, like the meeting, and Pluto also corresponds to secrets and the things we repress, the unconscious parts of our repressed psyche, and corresponds to the underworld and the things that are kept secret. And Mercury is in an alignment with his natal Pluto there, and then as well, Pluto in the sky is square to his natal Mercury here at 23 degrees Libra. So again, double Mercury, Pluto, and they have this, secret conversation basically that, I mean, honestly, I think it qualifies as treasonous, and I'm not alone in that assessment. So anyway, we'll leave the politics aside, just recognizing the archetypal complexes that are clearly at play today. And want to back up just a little bit because, on October 28th, 2015, I was on a podcast with Matthew Stelzner called Correlations, and we were asked to look at the transits for Trump and Hillary at the time. We were asked to look at the transits, and I actually said he had the best transits, and what I looked at was Jupiter was in a return. It was coming back to the same place it was when Donald Trump was born. This is Donald Trump's natal chart on the inside and the transits for the election on the outside. And at the same time, Uranus in the sky was in a sextile to his sun and to his natal Uranus. So like he's born with Sun Uranus trine Jupiter. So he's born with the Uranus Jupiter alignment in his natal chart. And the fact that he was having a Jupiter return and Jupiter was beginning to oppose Uranus in the sky, so it was lighting up Jupiter-Uranus again, so a resonant effect to what he has in his natal chart, and it was aligning with his natal Jupiter-Uranus. The Jupiter-Uranus archetypal complex actually corresponds to sudden, unexpected good fortune. It's like the gambler's aspect, or transit or natal aspect. So he's born, he has lots of good fortune in his life. Obviously, he's had a lot of bankruptcies, but then he always seems to turn it around and land on his feet. So this is a part of this complex, and it was active in the sky on the night of the election. But I'll be honest with you, on the night of the election itself, I didn't actually think he was going to win. I was with the polls and with Hillary, and thinking that the American people wouldn't vote someone like him into office. Basically, I didn't think that he could overcome the Access Hollywood and all these things. So that was just where my thinking was. But if you go back a year, and we were just looking at the transits and didn't have like a whole opinion about it. I was just like, he has better transits than Hillary. So, but I basically don't really view astrology as something you should try and predict things with, because basically reality is unknown and there's an indeterminate layer, and that's why it is uncertain, and it was uncertain that night. And we're living with what happened, and I think there's a larger reason for that too, because Trump is showing us so much of what we need to face in our shadow, which I've commented on lots in other podcasts. So, but anyway, that's an interesting corresponding alignments that took place then. But if you look at Vladimir Putin's chart for the election, Jupiter in the sky was on his sun, like within 2 degrees, and they were celebrating in Moscow, obviously, because of the successful operation, spy operation. And the other aspect that was happening here is that Pluto in the sky was square to Jupiter and his sun. So that same configuration that he's born with, Jupiter square Pluto, was also in the sky, Jupiter square Pluto, and it was on his sun, beginning his kind of real rise to empowerment here in the Trump era. So fascinating set of alignments there for Vladimir, and as well for him today. So, what was that? Let's hear Vladimir's Putin's transits for today. So, yeah, really, really intriguing alignments. The last thing I'll say is that there was just an eclipse that took place on July 13th, and it was in alignment with Donald Trump's Saturn. So for those of you who haven't seen any of these podcasts before, Pluto is opposing his natal Saturn, and we're beginning a Saturn-Pluto conjunction that's happening for everyone in the sky for the next 3 years, from 2018 through 2021. And it corresponds to all of the divisions we're seeing, like the Saturn-Pluto cycle corresponds to the world wars and the major crises and conflicts, and it has this tendency to divide and to psychologically split into what we see as other than ourselves. And you see this like with Hitler and the vermin Jew, and then like now again with Trump saying, we're being infested by immigrants and all of this. So he's born with it in his natal chart. It's a Saturn, Pluto, Mars alignment, with Pluto right at the midpoint between Mars and Saturn. And all this is being intensified because he has Pluto right now in the sky is opposing his natal Saturn. And just on the 13th, there was an eclipse. It was exactly opposite Pluto and on his Saturn. And I think what we're seeing here is the shadow of, a lot of his shadow being revealed, particularly with the indictments, and kind of the Saturn represents the law and kind of constriction and the closing in of the investigation on his integrity. Saturn represents integrity, and his inability, or lack of integrity, is what's being shown, hopefully, to everyone. There's been, mixed response to today's events, but I have hope. I feel like these transits are really tough, and he'll be continued to called out on, hopefully through consensus reality, what is the truth and whether or not he's actually living up to it or not. So anyway, that was just kind of a replacement for today's lack of sound video podcast, and I got a new mic, so I think it's going to work next time. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, hope everyone's doing well, and we'll talk again soon. All right, take care.